"Open this safe and $200 million is yours," the billionaire mocked, but the white maid's daughters did it in 6 minutes. Sometimes the siblings we scorn hold synergies we can't fathom. And sometimes one synchronized strike can shatter empires. Before we watch the vault swing wide, tell us where you're watching from. And if this fires you up, lock in that subscribe button because tomorrow's episode is pure dynamite. Now let's dive deeper. The vault reeked of aged scotch and unraveling control. It was 3:12 p.m. on day 4 of the siege. The Fortrex Omega safe stood silent, a 6-foot slab of matte black alloy that reflected every frantic movement in the room like a dark mirror. Dane Monroe, 52 years old, silver-haired, lean as a blade, paced in his navy cashmere sweater. His Italian leather shoes clicked against the polished concrete floor with the rhythm of a man counting down to his own ruin. Sweat beaded along his hairline despite the air-conditioned chill. His empire, built on ruthless acquisitions and whispered betrayals, now hinged on a metal box that refused to yield. 14 engineers from 4 elite firms filled the vault room. They formed a loose semicircle around the safe, their equipment humming and blinking in futile protest. One team operated a cluster of micro-drones no larger than dragonflies, their cameras probing seams that showed no seams at all. Another fed thermal imaging data into laptops, searching for heat signatures that never appeared. A third ran artificial intelligence algorithms designed to crack quantum encryption in seconds, yet the safe's hybrid lock laughed at their efforts. The fourth team, the most expensive of all, deployed a portable particle accelerator meant to map atomic structure. It produced nothing but error codes and frustrated sighs. The air carried the sharp bite of overheated circuits mixed with a lingering scent of Dane's single malt scotch. Empty crystal tumblers cluttered a side table, evidence of nights spent bargaining with a machine that did not bargain. Papers lay scattered across the floor. Stock reports showing an 18% drop in share price, urgent emails from board members printed in bold red, and a single acquisition contract worth $1.8 billion that now existed only as pixels on a screen outside the safe. Inside that impenetrable fortress rested the original signed documents, the crypto seed phrases, and the proof of Project Eclipse, the operation that could either crown Dane king or send him to prison. In the shadowed corner, unnoticed by the chaos of experts, sat 12-year-old identical twins Juliana and Lila Clay. Their legs dangled from a leather ottoman too tall for their frames, feet swinging in perfect unison. Freckles dusted their noses like cinnamon on cream, and strawberry blonde ponytails bounced with each subtle movement. They wore matching sky-blue sundresses, the kind bought in bulk from a discount rack, yet the fabric looked almost regal in the way it caught the overhead lights. Each girl clutched an identical puzzle cube, fingers dancing across the colored squares in silent choreography. The cubes clicked softly, a counter-rhythm to the engineer's mechanical symphony. Dane's handwritten note hung pinned to a corkboard on the far wall. The words were scrawled in black marker, the letters growing larger and more erratic toward the end. $200 million to anyone who opens it. Below the declaration, 14 signatures formed a neat column, each belonging to an engineer who had witnessed the promise. The paper fluttered slightly in the draft from an air vent, as if the offer itself trembled with anticipation. The twins had been in that corner for hours, maybe days, blending into the background like furniture. Their mother, Elena Clay, had brought them to the estate every morning since summer break began. Elena, 36 and widowed, needed the live-in housekeeping shifts to cover rent and groceries. Childcare was a luxury she could not afford, so Juliana and Lila tagged along, instructed to stay quiet and out of sight. They obeyed mostly, but quiet did not mean idle. Their eyes absorbed everything. Their ears catalogued every sound. And their minds, honed by years of homeschool logic games and puzzle marathons, built models of the world that adults never noticed. Dane stopped pacing. He ran a hand through his silver hair, then glared at the safe as if willpower alone could force it open. The lead engineer, a woman named Cara Voss with a steel-gray bob and a resume that included NASA propulsion systems, stepped forward. "Mr. Monroe, the biometric layer is adaptive. Every failed iris scan rewrites the baseline. We need a complete reset. And the manufacturer says that requires factory authorization, which they won't grant without the original override code. Dane's laugh cracked like ice. Factory authorization. I paid $350,000 for this thing. I am the factory. He spun toward the room, eyes wild. 4 teams. 4 days. Billions on the line. And not one of you can open a box. His gaze swept the engineers, then snagged on the corner. For the first time he truly saw the twins. Juliana and Lila froze mid-click, puzzle cubes half solved. Dane's lip curled. What are you two doing here? This isn't a playground. His voice dripped with the same disdain he reserved for anyone who earned less than 7 figures. Elena, get your charity cases out of my vault room. Elena appeared in the doorway almost instantly, apron still dusted with flour from the kitchen. Her face, lined with worry and exhaustion, paled further. I'm sorry, Mr. Monroe. They were just waiting for me to finish. I'll take them to the staff quarters right now. But Juliana spoke first, her voice clear and steady. We want to try. She slid off the ottoman, landing lightly on sneakered feet. Lila followed mirror image in motion. The puzzle cubes remained in their hands, now fully solved, colors aligned in perfect grids. The room went still. Engineers exchanged glances. Caravas raised an eyebrow. Dane barked a laugh that echoed off the alloy walls. You want to try. The trailer park twins think they can do what PhDs and million-dollar machines can't. He stepped closer, towering over them. Go ahead. Entertain me. But when you fail, your mother packs her bags tonight. Lila tilted her head, unfazed. The offer says anyone. Dane's smile vanished. He glanced at the corkboard, at the 14 signatures. A muscle twitched in his jaw. Fine. Anyone includes you. But the clock starts now, and if that door doesn't open in 6 minutes, you're all gone. Caravas cleared her throat. Mr. Monroe, the contract is witnessed. It's legally binding. I know what I signed, Dane snapped. He gestured toward the safe with mock grandeur. Be my guests. The twins walked forward in perfect sync, sundresses brushing their knees. Juliana pulled a small compact mirror from her pocket, the kind their mother used for quick makeup checks. Lila flexed her fingers, then placed her puzzle cube on the floor like a marker. Engineers parted to let them through, curiosity overriding protocol. Dane folded his arms, leaning against a table. 6 minutes. Starting now. To grasp how 2 girls toppled a titan, we must rewind 8 months to the night a thunderstorm first revealed the safe's secrets and planted the seeds of its destruction. The estate sprawled across acres of manicured grounds, a fortress of glass and steel that Dane had designed himself. Every detail screamed control. Biometric locks on every door, cameras in every hallway, and at the heart of it all, the vault room. Construction crews had installed the Fortrex Omega under Dane's direct supervision. He stood watch as technicians calibrated the iris scanner to his right eye only, programmed the voice recognition to respond solely to his cadence, and set the 12-digit mechanical dial to a sequence he committed to memory with arrogant certainty. Elena Clay started work the following week. She arrived each morning at 6, left each night at 10, and kept her head down. Her husband had died 2 years earlier in a factory accident, leaving her with twins to raise and bills to pay. The live-in summer arrangement was a godsend, even if it meant swallowing Dane's barbs about her second-hand uniforms and bargain bin life. The twins adapted quickly. They claimed a small table in the service corridor as their base, spreading out logic puzzles and strategy games. Dane banned them from the main library, the game room, even the indoor pool. This isn't a summer camp, he said, so they made their own world in the margins. 8 months ago, on a night when lightning split the sky and rain hammered the roof like gunfire, Dane tested the safe alone. He stood before the alloy door, scotch in hand, and spoke the override command. Alpha 7 override. The iris scanner flashed green. Then he spun the dial. 4-9-2-7-1-5. pause, reverse 3 clicks, forward 2. The mechanism thunked satisfyingly. He repeated the process twice, slurring slightly, convinced no one could hear. But Juliana and Lila heard everything. They crouched in the service corridor, ears pressed to the ventilation grate. Juliana memorized the light patterns reflecting off the scanner. Lila tracked the dial clicks, translating each into spatial memory. That night, back in their tiny staff room, they built a cardboard model of the lock using straws and bottle caps. They practiced until the sequence lived in their muscles. Day after day, Dane's contempt grew routine. He called them the helps accessories, mocked their homeschool curriculum, and once dumped a tray of puzzles into the trash, claiming they cluttered his hallways. Elena apologized profusely. The twins retrieved every piece from the bin and solved them again, faster each time. They learned to move like ghosts. They knew which floorboards creaked, which cameras had blind spots, which vents carried sound. They watched Dane's habits. The way he rubbed his left temple when stressed, the exact angle he tilted his head for the iris scan, the slight hesitation before the final dial turn. They turned humiliation into data. 4 days before the acquisition vote, disaster struck. Dane, exhausted from board meetings and hostile takeover rumors, attempted a routine stress test on the safe. He entered the override sloppily, eyes bloodshot, fingers trembling. The system registered an anomaly and triggered irrevocable lockdown. No reset, no backup. The manufacturer confirmed. Only the original sequence, perfectly executed, would open it now. Panic set in. The merger documents inside were the only hard copies with wet ink signatures. The crypto keys controlled wallets worth hundreds of millions. And Project Eclipse files detailed patent theft from 3 rival startups, evidence that could land Dane in federal prison. Team 1 arrived at dawn on day 1. They left at dusk defeated. Team 2 brought heavier equipment. Same result. Team 3 tried social engineering the manufacturer. Denied. Team 4, Caravassa's crew, represented the last hope. Stock prices slid. Reporters camped at the gates. Elena begged to keep her job. Dane snarled, "Keep those brats out of sight or you're all gone." The twins overheard the $200 million bounty scrawled in fury and pinned to the wall. Now, 8 months of invisible preparation collided with 4 days of desperation. Juliana raised the compact mirror, angling it to catch the corridor light. Lila placed her hands on the dial, fingers poised. Dane's mocking laugh filled the room one final time. Let the charity cases try. The storm arrived without warning, a wall of black clouds that swallowed the late spring sun and turned the estate into a fortress under siege. Thunder rolled across the manicured lawns like distant artillery. Rain lashed the steel and glass walls, drumming a frantic rhythm that drowned out every other sound. Dane Monroe stood alone in the vault room, a crystal tumbler of scotch balanced in one hand, the other pressed against the cool alloy surface of the newly installed Fortrex Omega. He had commissioned the safe 6 weeks earlier, after a rival CEO bragged about his own impregnable vault during a private dinner at the tech summit in Lisbon. Dane hated losing, even in conversation. The Fortrex Omega cost $350,000, a sum that made his CFO choke on his coffee. It featured an iris scanner calibrated to Dane's right eye, a voice recognition module trained on his exact vocal patterns, and a 12-digit mechanical dial that required a sequence only he knew. No digital backups, no cloud redundancy. Paranoia was his brand of security. Technicians had spent 3 days sealing the unit into the concrete subfloor, wiring it to a dedicated power line, and linking it to the estate's biometric network. Dane watched every step, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. When the lead installer asked for a final test code, Dane dismissed him with a wave. "I'll handle it myself." Now, with the storm raging outside, he decided the moment had come. He set the tumbler on a side table and leaned toward the scanner. "Alpha 7 override," he said, enunciating each syllable with the precision of a man who believed the world bent to his voice. The iris panel glowed green. He spun the dial, 4-9-2-7-1-5. Pause, reverse 3 clicks, forward 2. A satisfying thunk echoed through the room. The door unsealed with a hiss. Dane smiled, repeated the sequence twice more for good measure, then closed it again. He drained the scotch in one swallow and left the vault room, the storm masking the soft click of the lock re-engaging. In the service corridor that ran parallel to the vault, Juliana and Lila Clay pressed their ears against a ventilation grate no larger than a dinner plate. The grate sat low to the floor, hidden behind a stack of cleaning supplies. Their mother had shown them the spot weeks earlier, a quiet place to wait while she finished evening rounds. Tonight, the storm had driven them inside early, and curiosity kept them rooted. Juliana, always the one to notice patterns first, whispered. He said, Alpha 7 override. Lila, whose mind mapped sounds like a cartographer, nodded. Dial started at 4. Then 9. I heard the clicks. Pause after the 6 numbers. Then back 3, forward 2. They did not need to write it down. Homeschool had taught them to trust their memories. Logic puzzles, strategy games, and endless rounds of memory matching had sharpened their brains into instruments adults rarely suspected children possessed. They slipped back to the staff quarters, cardboard and straws already waiting under their shared bunk. By midnight, they had constructed a crude model of the lock, complete with a bottle cap dial and a flashlight bulb for the iris scanner. Elena Clay arrived for her first live-in shift the following Monday. She was 36, widowed for 2 years, and the sole provider for her daughters. The factory accident that took her husband had left her with a modest insurance payout, a mountain of medical bills, and 2 bright girls who deserved better than a cramped apartment in a noisy complex. Dane's offer of summer housekeeping with room and board included felt like a lifeline. She accepted without hesitation. The estate manager showed her to the staff wing, a narrow hallway with 3 small bedrooms, a shared bath, and a kitchenette the size of a walk-in closet. Elena's room had a single window overlooking the service drive. The twins would share the adjacent space, their bunk beds pushed against the wall to make room for a folding table. Elena unpacked their few belongings, 2 sundresses each, puzzle books, a worn copy of The Art of Logic, and the cardboard lock model hidden in a shoebox. Dane met them in the main foyer at 8 sharp. He wore a tailored linen shirt and linen trousers, silver hair slicked back, eyes scanning them like a scanner assessing produce. Elena stood straight, hands clasped in front of her apron. The twins flanked her, ponytails neat, sundresses pressed. Mrs. Clay, Dane said, voice smooth as polished stone. The estate runs on precision. Schedules are sacred. Intrusions are not tolerated. His gaze dropped to the girls. And these are my daughters, sir. Juliana and Lila. They'll stay out of your way. Dane's lip curled. Dollar store dresses. Public school manners. This isn't a daycare. He turned to Elena. Keep them in the staff wing unless they're under your direct supervision. I don't want fingerprints on my collections. Elena nodded. Yes, sir. The first day set the pattern. Elena rose at 5 to prepare breakfast for the household staff, then moved through the estate like a ghost, dusting shelves in the library, polishing the game room's billiard table, scrubbing the indoor pool deck until it gleamed. The twins trailed her at a distance, carrying buckets or folding linens. Dane appeared at random intervals, always with a critique. The silver isn't aligned by weight, he told Elena once. Another time. Those rags leave streaks. Use microfiber. He reserved special scorn for the girls. The helps accessories, he called them when they passed in the hallway. He banned them from the library after catching Lila tracing the spine of a first-edition cryptography text. Children don't belong among rare books, he snapped. The game room door stayed locked after Juliana solved a chess puzzle left mid-game on the board, moving the white queen to checkmate in 3. Dane reset the pieces and padlocked the room. No freeloaders, he muttered. Elena apologized each time, her voice steady but her eyes weary. She reminded the twins to stay quiet, to move faster, to be invisible. They obeyed on the surface, But invisibility became their superpower. They learned the estate's rhythms. The exact minute the security cameras rotated, the creak of the third stair from the top, the way Dane's footsteps echoed differently when he was angry versus merely impatient. Nightly puzzle marathons became their rebellion. After Elena fell asleep, exhausted from 14-hour shifts, the twins spread their games across the folding table. They timed each other on Rubik's cubes, raced through Sudoku grids, and debated strategy in cooperative logic puzzles that required perfect communication. The cardboard lock model evolved. They added a mirror shard for the iris scanner, a gear from an old clock for the dial. Juliana practiced angling light to mimic Dane's eye pattern. Lila spun the bottle cap dial blindfolded, relying on muscle memory for the clicks. They did not speak of revenge. They spoke of mastery. "If we understand the lock better than he does," Juliana whispered one night, "it stops being his." Lila nodded. "It becomes ours." Daily microaggressions piled like bricks in a wall. Dane mocked their homeschool curriculum when he overheard Elena quizzing them on fractions. "Self-taught delusions," he scoffed. He tossed their puzzle books into a donation bin, claiming they cluttered the staff lounge. Elena retrieved them after he left, her hands shaking. The twins solved every puzzle again, faster, as if speed could erase the insult. They mapped the vault room through fragments, a glimpse through an open door, a reflection in a window, the echo of Dane's voice during phone calls. They learned he tested the safe every Thursday night, always after 2 scotches, always alone. The storm had been an anomaly, but the routine was gold. By the end of the first month, their mental model of the Fortrex Omega was complete. They could recite the override sequence in their sleep. They could draw the iris scan's light pattern from memory. They could spin an imaginary dial and feel the thunk of the lock disengaging. Elena noticed the change in her daughters. They moved with purpose now, eyes bright even after long days. She asked once, cautiously, what they were working on. Juliana smiled. "Just games, Mom." Elena let it go. She had enough battles with Dane. The estate itself became a puzzle. The twins discovered a service elevator hidden behind a false panel, a laundry chute that dropped 3 stories into the basement, a ventilation shaft wide enough for a child to crawl through. They never used these paths for mischief. They used them for knowledge. One evening, Dane hosted a dinner for potential investors. The twins, banished to the staff wing, listened through the vents as he bragged about the Fortrex Omega. "Not even the NSA could crack it," he boasted. Laughter followed. Juliana and Lila exchanged a look. They spent that night refining their model, adding a timer to simulate the adaptive biometric layer. Summer deepened. The storms came and went. Dane's paranoia grew with his empire. Rumors of the acquisition swirled in boardrooms. Project Eclipse files multiplied inside the safe. And in the staff wing, 2 12-year-old girls built a weapon no one suspected. A perfect understanding of the fortress that would one day become a cage. The twins turned humiliation into fuel. Every sneer, every locked door, every discarded puzzle book stoked the fire. They did not hate Dane. They pitied his blindness. He saw children. They saw leverage. And on the night 4 days before the acquisition vote, when Dane's trembling fingers triggered the irrevocable lockdown, the seeds planted 8 months earlier began to sprout. 4 days before the $1.8 billion acquisition vote, the estate hummed with a tension thicker than any storm. Board members flooded Dane Monroe's inbox with veiled threats disguised as concerns. Rival firms circled like sharks, sensing blood in the water. Project Eclipse, the crown jewel of stolen patents that would secure the merger, sat locked behind the Fortrex Omega's alloy door. Dane paced the vault room at midnight, a fresh scotch in hand. His reflection fractured across the safe's matte surface. He had run stress tests before, dozens of them always flawless. Tonight, exhaustion blurred the edges. A 12-hour conference call with Tokyo investors had left his eyes bloodshot. His fingers trembled as he leaned toward the iris scanner. "Alpha 7 override," he slurred, the words merging into a single breath. The panel flashed amber, then red. He blinked hard, tried again. The scanner locked on a partial print. Registered anomaly. Dane spun the dial too quickly. 4-9-2-7-1-5. But the pause came early, the reverse clicks rushed. A low chime sounded, different from the usual thunk. Lights across the safe's control panel shifted from green to pulsing crimson. Text scrolled across a small display. Irrevocable lockdown engaged. Manual override required. No reset available. Dane stared, scotch sloshing over the rim of his glass. He punched in the sequence again. Nothing. He slammed his palm against the alloy. The safe did not flinch. Panic clawed up his throat. Inside lay the original merger contracts with wet ink signatures from all parties. Irreplaceable. Crypto seed phrases controlled wallets holding $250 million in digital assets. The liquidity needed to close the deal. And the Project Eclipse folders detailed every patent lifted from 3 startups, complete with timestamps, emails, and forged transfer agreements. If those surfaced publicly, federal indictments would follow before breakfast. He called the manufacturer at 3 a.m. The night engineer, voice thick with sleep, confirmed the worst. The irrevocable protocol is a failsafe against coercion. Only a perfect execution of the original biometric and mechanical sequence will disengage it now. No factory reset. No back door. Dane hung up, hurled the phone against the wall, and watched it shatter into plastic confetti. Dawn painted the estate in bruised purples. Dane summoned his inner circle to the vault room. CFO, General Counsel, Head of Security. They stared at the crimson panel in silence. The CFO broke it first. The board wants the files on the table in 96 hours. No extensions. If the vote fails, the acquisition collapses. Our stock will tank. The General Counsel added quietly. And if those Eclipse files leak, we're looking at criminal exposure. Years of it. Dane's face hardened into a mask. Get me the best vault teams on the planet. Money is irrelevant. Team 1 arrived at 6 a.m., a crew from a Swiss firm specializing in diplomatic safes. They unloaded cases of diamond-tipped drills, spectral analyzers, and a laptop array that filled half the room. Elena Clay, already at work in the kitchen, heard the commotion through the open service door. She wiped her hands on her apron and peeked into the hallway. Security guards waved her back. Staff only beyond this point. The twins, eating cereal at the folding table in their room, exchanged glances. Juliana set her spoon down. Something's wrong. Lila nodded, already slipping on her sneakers. They moved through the service corridors like shadows, puzzle cubes tucked into pockets. By noon, the Swiss team had mapped the safe's exterior down to micrometers. They identified no weak points. The alloy resisted every drill bit. The biometric layer adapted to every spoof attempt, rewriting its baseline faster than their algorithms could predict. Dusk they packed up. The lead technician handed Dane a report. Structurally impossible without the override. Dane tore the paper in half. Next team. Now. Team 2 rolled in at 8 p.m. Americans with military contracts and a reputation for cracking Pentagon vaults. They brought electromagnetic pulse generators, liquid nitrogen, and a drone swarm programmed for microwell disruption. Elena finished her evening rounds under the watchful eyes of extra guards. She found the twins huddled by a vent grate, listening. Girls' bed. It's late. They obeyed, but sleep did not come. The Americans worked through the night. Pulses fried their own equipment. Nitrogen cracked a probe but left the safe untouched. Drones crashed into invisible force fields. By morning, they departed with singed eyebrows and a bill for $200,000. Stock opened down 8%. Reporters gathered at the main gates, cameras flashing against the wrought iron bars. Dane's PR team issued a vague statement about technical delays. Social media speculated wildly. Bankruptcy, embezzlement, hostile takeover. Team 3 arrived at noon on day 2, a German outfit known for museum heists reversed into security consultations. They deployed sound-wave resonance tools, attempting to vibrate the internal pins into alignment. The safe absorbed the frequencies like a black hole. Elena scrubbed floors in the East Wing, her knees aching, her mind racing. She overheard Dane in the hallway, voice pitched high with fury. "If this isn't open by tomorrow, heads roll. Starting with yours." The twins shadowed her at a distance, puzzle cubes clicking softly. They noted the new guards, the sealed corridors, the way Dane's footsteps now carried the weight of a man balancing on a ledge. Day 3 brought Team 4, Kara Voss and her ex-NASA crew. They arrived with particle accelerators, quantum decryptors, and a quiet confidence that unnerved even Dane. Elena begged the estate manager for permission to continue working. "I need the hours, please. The girls will stay in our quarters." The manager relayed the message. Dane's response echoed down the hall. "Tell the maid her brats stay out of sight or you're all gone. I'm done with distractions." Elena returned to the staff wing, face pale. The twins hugged her without words. That night, as Kara's team ran initial scans, Dane's meltdown peaked. He stormed into the vault room at 2 a.m., scotch bottle in hand, and scrawled the bounty on a sheet of printer paper. $200 million to anyone who opens it. He slammed it onto the table. "Witness this," he barked. The 14 engineers signed one by one, pens scratching in the silence. Juliana and Lila listened from the vent above the service corridor. Juliana whispered the words as Dane wrote them. Lila memorized the slant of his letters, the tremor in his wrist. They slipped back to their room, hearts pounding in unison. Stock closed the day down 18%. Analysts predicted a 30% drop by market open if the merger collapsed. Reporters camped in tents, live-streaming the gates. Delivery drones buzzed overhead, dropping pamphlets demanding transparency. Dane locked himself in the vault room, refusing food, barking orders through the door. Elena worked in silence, her hands raw from bleach. She caught glimpses of the chaos. Engineers hauling equipment, guards pacing, Dane's silhouette against the crimson panel. She feared for her job, for her daughter's future. The twins feared nothing. They saw opportunity. Kara Voss's team pushed hardest on day 3. They mapped the safe's power draw, attempted to starve the biometric layer, fed false data into the voice module. The safe adapted, evolved, mocked them. At midnight, Kara approached Dane with grim honesty. "We're out of standard protocols. This may take weeks." Dane's laugh cracked like glass. "I have hours." He pinned the bounty note to the corkboard, the paper now curling at the edges. The twins lay awake in their bunk beds, puzzle cubes solved and reset a dozen times. Juliana stared at the ceiling. 96 hours started at midnight 4 days ago. Lila calculated silently. 72 hours left when the vote begins. They did not need to speak the plan. It lived between them, forged in 8 months of observation and nightly practice. Outside, the estate lights burned through the night. Inside the vault room, the Fortrex Omega stood sentinel, crimson panel pulsing like a heartbeat. Dane's empire cracked along invisible fault lines, each failure widening the fissure. The board's ultimatum loomed: produce the files or watch everything crumble. Elena whispered prayers in the staff kitchen, scrubbing counters that did not need scrubbing. The twins moved through the corridors like breath, unseen, unheard, their sundresses brushing against walls that held secrets. They knew the safe's rhythm better than its maker. They knew the sound of victory hidden in clicks and light. And as day 4 dawned, with reporters chanting beyond the gates and stock tickers bleeding red, the countdown tightened like a noose. The $200 million bounty hung on the wall, a desperate promise scrawled in fury. The twins overheard every word, every threat, every plea. The glitch had triggered the crisis. The countdown now measured more than hours. It measured the distance between a titan's arrogance and 2 girls' quiet certainty. Day 4 broke over the estate like a fever dream, the sky a dull gray that pressed down on the manicured grounds. Reporters had multiplied overnight, their vans forming a jagged perimeter beyond the gates. Drones hovered legally at the property line, lenses trained on every window. Inside, the vault room pulsed with a low whine of machinery pushed to its limits. Caravas's team, the fourth and final hope, had worked in shifts since midnight, their eyes red-rimmed, coffee cups stacked like ammunition casings. Cara stood at the center of the chaos, her steel-gray bob tucked behind one ear, directing her crew with clipped precision. Deploy the micro-drones. Full swarm. I want every millimeter of that seam mapped. Tiny machines no larger than houseflies lifted from a charging pad, rotors whispering as they darted toward the Fortrex Omega. Their cameras fed live footage to a bank of monitors, painting the safe surface in high-resolution grids. Another engineer calibrated thermal imaging rigs, screens blooming with false-color heat maps. Looking for micro-fluctuations in the biometric housing, he muttered. If the iris scanner cycles power differently under stress, we can exploit it. The safe remained a cold void, its alloy absorbing ambient temperature like a sponge. A third subgroup hammered at AI brute force algorithms, lines of code scrolling endlessly. We're simulating 10 million voice variations per second, the lead coder announced, factoring Dane's slur patterns from the stress test audio. If the module has a degradation threshold, we'll hit it. The safe's voice panel stayed dark, unyielding. Elena moved through the adjacent hallways on autopilot, her mop bucket sloshing with each step. Guards nodded her through now, too focused on the vault to enforce Dane's earlier snarls. She caught fragments of conversation. Failure rates, adaptive thresholds, quantum entanglement theories. Her hands trembled as she wrung the mop. The job hung by a thread. One more outburst from Dane, and she would be packing bags for 3. The twins operated in the margins, their sky-blue sundresses blending with the pale corridor walls. They had claimed a small alcove near the service entrance, a spot overlooked by cameras and foot traffic. Juliana sat cross-legged on the floor, a napkin spread before her like a battlefield. She sketched with a stubby pencil scavenged from the staff lounge, angles of incidence, reflection paths, light intensity gradients. The compact mirror lay beside her, its surface catching stray beams from a ceiling fixture. If we bounce the corridor light at 42 degrees, she murmured, it mimics the scanner's feedback loop from 8 months ago. Lila knelt nearby, a tin cup pressed to the wall that separated them from the vault room. The cup, pilfered from the kitchenette, amplified vibrations like a stethoscope. She closed her eyes, head tilted, translating faint dial echoes into a mental symphony. The brute force is throwing off the rhythm, she whispered. But the bass clicks are still 4-9-2-7-1-5. The reverse conformation hasn't shifted. Her fingers drummed the sequence on her thigh, muscle memory etched deep. Engineers passed them without a second glance. One paused to adjust a drone controller, chuckling under his breath. Cute mascots. Monroe's PR stunt. Another ruffled Juliana's ponytail as if she were a puppy. Stay out of the grown-ups' way, kiddo. The twins did not react. They had learned long ago that dismissal was camouflage. Dane burst into the vault room at 10 a.m. His navy cashmere sweater rumpled, silver hair wild. He carried a fresh bottle of scotch, uncorked, and took a swig straight from the neck. Status, he demanded. Cara did not look up from her monitors. Drones have mapped 98% of the exterior. No exploitable seams. Thermal shows uniform dissipation. AI is at 12 million simulations and climbing. We're close on the voice module, but the dial's mechanical layer is the bottleneck. Close isn't open, Dane roared. He swept an arm across a side table, sending coffee cups crashing. I need that door swinging by 3 o'clock or the board pulls the vote. Do you understand? Billions. Gone. His voice cracked on the last word. The room fell silent except for the hum of machines. Cara's jaw tightened. We're deploying a new protocol, combining drone vibration with targeted EMP bursts. If we can desync the biometric reset cycle. Do it faster, Dane interrupted. He paced to the corkboard where the bounty note hung, its edges frayed from handling. The paper had become a talisman of desperation. He grabbed a marker from a nearby table, uncapped it with his teeth, and scrawled beneath the original text, "Witnessed and binding." He underlined it 3 times, the marker squeaking. Then he signed his full name with a flourish, slamming the board so hard the pin popped free. The note fluttered to the floor. An engineer retrieved it, repinned it. Dane glared at the room. Anyone. I mean anyone. Juliana folded her napkin sketch into a precise square and tucked it into her dress pocket. Lila set the tin cup aside, wiping condensation from her palm. They exchanged a look, a silent conversation honed over years of shared thoughts. Juliana mouthed numbers. The light angle, the dial pause. Lila nodded, flexing her fingers. The engineers redoubled efforts. Microdrones formed intricate patterns, buzzing like angry bees. Thermal rigs beeped in protest. The AI coder shouted progress. 15 million simulations. Voice degradation at 0.003%. Dane watched it all with the hollow eyes of a man watching his reflection drown. Elena appeared in the doorway at noon, tray balanced with sandwiches no one wanted. Guards waved her through. She set the food on a table, her gaze flicking to the twins in the alcove. Juliana gave a subtle shake of the head. Not yet. Elena retreated, heart pounding. By 2 p.m. Kara's team hit a wall. The drone vibration desynced nothing. EMP bursts triggered failsafes that rewrote the safe's firmware in real time. The AI plateaued at 99% confidence on voice but 0 on dial integration. Kara pulled Dane aside. We need more time. Days maybe. Dane's meltdown crested. He grabbed the scotch bottle, hurled it against the alloy door. Glass exploded, amber liquid streaking down the matte surface like tears. Time. I have minutes. He spun to the room, chest heaving. $200 million. Crypto. Whatever. To anyone who opens this thing. Now. He snatched the bounty note from the corkboard, crumpled it, then smoothed it out and slammed it onto the central table. Sign again if you need to. Witness it. I don't care. The 14 engineers hesitated, then added fresh signatures below the old. Pens scratched. The note now looked like a desperate petition. Dane stepped back, breathing hard. There. It's done. In the alcove, Juliana whispered to Lila. 6 minutes. We do it together or not at all. Lila's eyes gleamed. Together. They stood in unison, sundresses falling straight. Puzzle cubes emerged from pockets. Colors scrambled in identical patterns. Their fingers began the solve. Clicks soft but deliberate. Engineers turned at the sound, frowning. Kara raised an eyebrow. Dane, wiping scotch from his hands, followed their gazes. The twins stepped forward, puzzle cubes clicking in unison. The morning sun filtered through the high windows of the vault room, casting long shadows across the polished marble floor. The air hummed with a low buzz of anticipation, or perhaps it was the faint vibration from the climate control systems keeping the artifacts at a precise 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Day 4 had dawned with a fresh wave of determination from the assembled crowd, but the whispering vault remained as silent and impenetrable as ever. The previous day's failures, Team 3's elaborate laser grid that fizzled out in a shower of sparks, had left a palpable residue of frustration in the room. Whispers rippled through the observers. Journalists scribbling furiously, museum curators wringing their hands, and the ever-present security detail shifting uncomfortably in their starched uniforms. Dane Hargrove paced the perimeter like a caged animal, his polished loafers clicking against the stone with each agitated step. His tie was askew, a rare crack in his otherwise impeccable facade, and beads of sweat dotted his forehead despite the cool air. The bounty had climbed to an astronomical figure overnight, fueled by viral social media clips of the vault's defiant whispers mocking the experts. "This ends today," he muttered to no one in particular, his voice carrying an edge sharpened by 3 nights of fitful sleep. The fourth team assembled with the precision of a military operation. They were the heavy hitters, a consortium of tech moguls and engineers from Silicon Valley's elite firms, backed by unlimited funding and cutting-edge gadgets. Led by Dr. Elias Thorne, a wiry man with wire-rimmed glasses and a perpetual smirk, they rolled in crates of equipment that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi blockbuster. "Gentlemen and ladies," Thorne announced, nodding vaguely toward the twins who sat cross-legged on the floor nearby, "prepare to witness the triumph of human ingenuity over antique whimsy." Juliana and Lila exchanged a subtle glance, their identical hazel eyes reflecting a mix of amusement and focus. They had spent the night in their shared hotel room, not sleeping much but instead poring over sketches and notes scribbled on hotel stationery. The vault's whispers had echoed in their minds, a symphony of clues that the experts seemed deaf to. But now, as the team unpacked, the girls remained unobtrusive, blending into the background like shadows. The deployment began with microdrones, tiny insect-like devices no larger than a bee, equipped with high-resolution cameras and sensors. Thorne's assistants launched a swarm of them, the air filling with a soft whir as they buzzed toward the vault's surface. "These little beauties will map every micron," Thorne explained to the crowd, his voice amplified by a lapel mic. "They'll detect anomalies in the metal, vibrations in the dials, even microscopic wear patterns from centuries of use." On a large screen set up nearby, live feeds from the drones projected a 3D model of the vault, layering data in real time. The whispers seemed to grow faintly louder, as if the vault itself was chuckling at the intrusion. Next came the thermal imaging rigs. Massive tripods were erected, mounting cameras that scanned the vault with infrared precision. "Heat signatures," Thorne continued, adjusting a dial on his tablet. "Any internal mechanisms will betray themselves through thermal bleed. No lock is truly invisible." The screens bloomed with colors, cool blues for the inert metal, faint oranges where the dials might conceal gears. But as the scans progressed, the patterns revealed nothing conclusive, just symmetrical heat distributions that could be ambient reflections or deliberate decoys crafted by the vault's long-dead designer. Undeterred, the team escalated to AI brute force. A bank of servers hummed to life in the corner, connected via fiber optics to probes attached to the vault's dials. "Our neural network will simulate billions of combinations per second," Thorne boasted, his smirk widening. "It learns from each failure, adapting like evolution on steroids." The room fell into a tense hush as the program initiated, the dials twitching under remote control. Clicks and whirs filled the air, interspersed with the vault's ethereal whispers, which now sounded almost taunting. Minutes stretched into hours, the AI churning through possibilities that would take a human lifetime to attempt. Yet the vault held firm, its secrets unyielding. Amid this technological symphony, Juliana and Lila worked in quiet counterpoint. Juliana pulled a crumpled napkin from her pocket, the kind pilfered from the hotel breakfast buffet, and began sketching with a stubby pencil. Her lines were precise, calculating the angles of light reflection off the vault's engraved surface. "See here," she murmured to herself, tracing a ray that bounced from one dial to another. "The inscriptions aren't just decorative, they're prisms. Bend the light right, and it reveals hidden alignments." She angled the napkin toward the window, watching how the sunlight played across her drawing, mimicking the vault's potential responses. Lila, meanwhile, improvised with a tin cup she'd snagged from the catering table. Pressing it against the vault's side like a makeshift stethoscope, she tapped gently on the dials, mapping the acoustics. Each tap produced a resonance, a subtle echo that she noted in a small notebook. "The whispers aren't random," she whispered, her ear tuned to the vibrations. "They're harmonics. Match the frequency and the internals shift." Her fingers danced lightly over the surface, committing the soundscape to memory. Together, the twins' methods were low-tech, almost archaic compared to the buzzing drones and glowing screens, but they pulsed with an intuitive rhythm that the machines lacked. The engineers, absorbed in their data streams, barely noticed the girls at first. But as the morning wore on and the AI hit dead end after dead end, glances turned their way. One burly technician, wiping sweat from his brow, chuckled as he passed by. "Look at the kiddos playing detective," he said to his colleague, loud enough for the twins to hear. "Cute mascots, aren't they? Probably think they can crack it with crayons and string." Another engineer, a woman with a clipboard, smirked. "Adorable. But this is real science, sweeties. Run along and let the grown-ups handle it." The dismissal hung in the air like a challenge, but Juliana and Lila didn't flinch. Instead, they shared a knowing smile, their bond a silent fortress against the condescension. They'd heard it all before. Underestimated, overlooked, treated as novelties rather than prodigies. It only fueled their resolve. Dane's patience, however, was fraying to threads. He hovered near Thorn, his face reddening with each failed simulation. "How much longer?" he barked, slamming a fist on a nearby table. The room startled, coffee cups rattling. Thorn adjusted his glasses, unflappable. "Innovation takes time, Mr. Hargrove. We're close." "Close isn't good enough," Dane exploded, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. He snatched a bounty note from his assistant, a crisp sheet emblazoned with the escalating reward, and scrawled his signature across it with furious strokes. "This vault is making fools of us all." He slammed the paper down on the table, the impact sending pens scattering. His meltdown was in full swing, veins bulging in his neck, eyes wild with desperation. The crowd murmured, cameras flashing to capture the spectacle. Dane Hargrove, the unflappable billionaire, was unraveling before their eyes. In the midst of the chaos, Juliana leaned close to Lila, their heads nearly touching. 6 minutes, she whispered, her voice steady amid the storm. "We do it together or not at all." Lila nodded, her expression mirroring her sister's determination. They had pieced it together, the light angles aligning with acoustic maps to form a hidden sequence. The vault wasn't about force, it was about harmony, invisibility revealed through subtle interplay. As the engineers regrouped for another AI run, the twins rose quietly. The room's attention was fractured, but a few heads turned as they approached the vault. In their hands, they each held a small puzzle cube, a relic from their childhood, etched with symbols that echoed the vault's engravings. With a synchronized breath, they began to manipulate the cubes, the soft clicks resonating in unison. The sound cut through the technological din, drawing eyes. The whispers from the vault grew, not in mockery, but in response, as if awakening to a long-lost language. The tension thickened, the air electric. Thorn paused his tablet, brow furrowed. Dane froze mid-rant, his signed bounty note forgotten on the table. The micro-drones hovered idle, thermal cameras capturing the subtle shift in heat as the twins' cubes aligned. Step by step, they advanced, their movements a dance of precision and intuition. The puzzle cubes clicked one final time, locking into place, and the vault's dials began to hum in harmony. But the true revelation was yet to unfold. The twins' approach wasn't rushed. It was deliberate, each footfall measured against the acoustic map Lila had charted. Juliana's napkin sketches had revealed that the vault's surface acted like a mirror maze, where light from the room's fixtures could be directed to illuminate faint etchings invisible to the naked eye. As they positioned themselves, Juliana angled her cube to catch a beam of sunlight streaming from the window, refracting it onto the first dial. A hidden glyph flickered to life, a subtle arrow pointing to an adjacent mechanism. "See that?" Lila murmured, her tin cup now tucked away, but its lessons ingrained. She twisted her cube, sending a low-frequency vibration through her fingertips to the vault. The dial responded with a faint echo, confirming the alignment. The engineers, now fully attentive, muttered among themselves. "What are they doing?" one asked, zooming in with a drone camera. Thorn pushed his glasses up, intrigued despite himself. "Some kind of sympathetic resonance. But that's rudimentary." Rudimentary or not, it was working. The whispers evolved from murmurs to a melodic cadence, guiding the twins' hands. They worked in tandem, Juliana handling the visual cues while Lila attuned to the sounds. One dial turned a quarter inch, clicking into place with a satisfying thunk. The crowd gasped as a seam in the vault's facade glowed faintly, a hairline crack of light betraying an internal shift. Dane edged closer, his earlier fury morphing into wide-eyed astonishment. "Impossible," he breathed, the bounty note crumpling in his fist. But the twins pressed on, undeterred by the growing audience. Another cube twist from Lila, and the second dial hummed, its acoustics matching the first. Juliana's light reflection danced across it, revealing a sequence of symbols that interlocked like puzzle pieces. The dismissal from earlier stung less now. It was fuel. "Cute mascots," the burly technician had said. Well, these mascots were about to school the experts. As the third dial engaged, the thermal imaging screens, still active, flared with new patterns. Warm pulses radiating from hidden gears, invisible until now. The AI servers beeped in confusion, their brute force algorithms outpaced by the girls' elegant simplicity. Time seemed to compress, the 6 minutes Juliana had whispered ticking down in their minds. 4 dials aligned, then 5. The vault's whispers crescendoed, no longer taunting but approving, a chorus welcoming the right touch. The engineers scrambled to analyze, drones swarming closer, but the twins were in their element, a bubble of focus where technology bowed to intuition. Finally, as the last dial beckoned, Juliana and Lila locked eyes. "Together," Juliana said softly. They extended their puzzle cubes, pressing them against the vault in unison. The clicks merged, one sound, one purpose. The cubes interfaced with the dials, symbols aligning perfectly. A deep rumble emanated from within, and the vault's door unsealed with a sigh, as if relieved to yield its secrets. The room erupted in applause, flashes blinding, but the twins stepped back modestly, their cubes still clicking faintly in their hands. Dane staggered forward, the signed bounty note extended like an olive branch. You did it," he stammered, his meltdown forgotten in the glow of success. But for Juliana and Lila, it was just the beginning. The vault's invisibility had been pierced, not by force but by harmony. And as the contents gleamed in the open chamber, the twins knew their journey was far from over. The vault door exhaled like a sleeper roused from centuries of dreams, a soft pneumatic sigh that carried the scent of aged brass and oiled steel. A ribbon of golden light spilled across the marble, widening into a wedge as the massive panel swung inward on hidden hinges. Juliana and Lila stood shoulder to shoulder, puzzle cubes still warm in their palms, the final clicks echoing faintly in the sudden hush. The room behind them had gone unnaturally still. Even the micro-drones hung suspended mid-air, rotors stuttering as if the machines themselves were holding their breath. 3:12 p.m. The digital clock on Thorne's tablet blinked the exact second the seal broke. No one moved to stop the twins. No one dared. Dane's hand trembled around the bounty note, the paper crumpling into a damp wad. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, no sound emerged. The scotch glass he'd snatched from a passing tray slipped from his fingers and shattered against the floor in a crystalline spray, amber liquid pooling like liquid sunlight around his Italian leather shoes. Engineers clustered behind him, faces illuminated by the glow from the open vault, mouths agape beneath the glare of their own abandoned screens. Juliana stepped forward first, the soles of her sneakers whispering over the threshold. The interior was smaller than the exterior suggested, a perfect cube, perhaps 8 feet to a side, lined with brushed titanium panels that drank the light and gave nothing back. A single corridor of polished steel led to a circular dais at the center, upon which rested a biometric iris scanner mounted on a slender pedestal. Its lens glowed a soft, expectant blue. Lila followed, cube tucked into her pocket, fingers already tracing the air as if conducting an invisible orchestra. "Corridors angled at 22 degrees, she murmured, voice pitched low for her sister alone. Light from the atrium skylight hits the far wall at 3:17. We have 4 minutes of direct beam. Juliana nodded once, crisp. From the inner pocket of her denim jacket she produced a compact mirror no larger than a silver dollar. Lila's birthday gift from 2 years ago, the one they'd used to signal each other across crowded museum halls. She flipped it open, angling the glass until the skylight's shaft struck the reflective surface and fractured into a precise lance of white. The beam danced across the corridor, striking the iris scanner dead center. The scanner pulsed, confused by the sudden influx of patterned light. Juliana adjusted the mirror a fraction, left, down, tilt, and the reflection resolved into a perfect replica of Dane's retinal pattern, captured weeks earlier when he'd leaned too close to a security feed during a press conference. She'd memorized the fractal ridges from a paused frame on her phone, sketched them onto graph paper, then practiced the bounce until the spoof was pixel perfect. Soft chime. Green light bathed the pedestal. Iris confirmed. The system announced in a neutral feminine voice that sounded almost amused. The dais rotated 90 degrees, revealing a secondary panel of 6 dials arranged in a hexagon, each one no wider than a quarter, engraved with hair-fine notches that caught the light like frost. Lila knelt, ear pressed to the cool metal. From her other pocket she withdrew the tin cup, now dented from hours of use, and set it gently against the panel. She tapped once, sharp, deliberate. The vault answered with a stored sequence of clicks, a rapid staccato that had played beneath every failed brute force attempt like a heartbeat. 4 clicks, pause, 9, pause, 2, 7, 1, 5. Then, fainter, the same sequence in reverse, as if the mechanism were confirming its own memory. 4-9-2-7-1-5, Lila breathed. Counterclockwise for entry, clockwise to confirm. They built in a double key. Juliana was already moving. Her fingers found the first dial. Lila took the third. They worked in mirrored rhythm, Juliana turning left while Lila turned right, the dials gliding with buttery precision. Each notch seated with a satisfying snick that vibrated up their wrists. The compact mirror lay forgotten on the floor, its work done. The skylight beam now painted a perfect circle on the ceiling, ticking down the seconds like a sundial. 3:14. The first dial locked. A hairline seam appeared along the dais edge. 3:15. Second dial. The titanium panels began to hum, a sub-audible thrum that set the microdrone spinning in erratic spirals. Outside the vault, Dr. Thorne recovered first. "Record everything," he snapped, voice cracking. Thermal, acoustic, spectral, full spectrum. Technicians scrambled, but their equipment stuttered. The vault's internal dampening field was waking up, scrambling signals within a 5-foot radius. The AI servers emitted a mournful beep and went dark. 3:16. Third dial. Lila's tongue peeked between her teeth in concentration. The reverse sequence began. 5-1-7-2-9-4. Her turns featherlight, guided by the ghost of sound still ringing in the tin cup's memory. Dane lurched forward, shoes crunching through broken glass. "Wait, protocol, there are procedures." His voice cracked like the Scotch tumbler. A security guard caught his arm, uncertain whether to restrain or support. 3:17. Fourth dial. The skylight beam slid off the mirror and struck the far wall, painting the vault in shifting gold. Juliana's shadow stretched long across the dais, merging with Lila's until they became one silhouette. 3:18. Fifth dial. The air inside grew warmer, carrying the faint scent of cedar and old paper. Somewhere deep within the mechanism, gears the size of watch springs engaged with a sound like distant rain. 3:19. Sixth dial. Juliana and Lila turned the final notch together, palms pressed flat, cubes forgotten. The hexagon of dials flushed crimson, then cooled to silver. A heartbeat of silence. 5:58 p.m. The vault hissed, a long serpentine release of pressure that tasted of ozone and antiquity. The dais sank 6 inches into the floor, revealing a circular plinth rising in its place. Upon it rested 3 objects, arranged with ceremonial precision. First, a stack of bearer bonds, edges crisp despite their age, each one embossed with the seal of a forgotten Swiss bank and denominated in amounts that made the bounty look like pocket change. Second, a trio of matte black USB drives, labels handwritten in faded ink. Project Eclipse. Phase I, Phase II, Phase III. Third, a slim leather folder stamped in red. Confidential, acquisition targets. The top sheet, visible through a plastic sleeve, bore a list of company names. Some familiar tech giants, others long defunct, alongside dates that stretched into the late 2040s. The twins stared, breath fogging in the suddenly chilly air. Juliana reached out, hesitated, then lifted the folder with reverent fingers. The paper crackled like dry leaves. Behind them, the room exploded into motion. Engineers surged forward, drones crashing into each other in their haste. Dane shoved past the guard, face flushed with a mixture of triumph and terror. That's mine," he stammered, though his eyes betrayed uncertainty. "My grandfather's estate." Lila turned, tin cup dangling from one finger. "Actually," she said, voice clear as the vault's final chime, "it belonged to someone who planned 60 years ahead. Question is, Mr. Hargrove, what happens when the world learns what Eclipse really was?" Flashbulbs popped. Phones rose like periscopes. The 6-minute miracle had cracked more than a vault. It had fractured a legacy. Juliana closed the folder gently, the bearer bonds glinting between her fingers like captured sunlight. "We're not done," she whispered to Lila. "This was just the lock. The real puzzle starts now." Outside, the atrium clock struck 4. The vault door began to swing shut of its own accord, slow and inevitable, as if reminding everyone that some secrets prefer the dark. The vault door halted its inexorable swing, arrested by an unseen mechanism that left it ajar by a mere handspan. Through the sliver, the plinth's contents gleamed like forbidden stars. Bearer bonds stacked in neat bricks, USB drives aligned with military precision, the confidential folder cradled in Juliana's steady hands. The atrium beyond pulsed with chaotic energy. Flashes from cameras, the frantic whir of recalibrating drones, and the low murmur of a crowd teetering on the edge of pandemonium. But inside the vault's threshold, time fractured into shards of raw emotion. Dane Hargrove's face twisted into something primal, a mask of entitlement cracked by fury. His eyes locked on the folder, then flicked to the twins, two slight figures silhouetted against the titanium glow, unbowed and unflinching. The crumpled bounty note lay forgotten at his feet, soaked in scotch and shattered glass. "You!" he snarled, voice rising from a guttural whisper to a roar that reverberated off the vault walls. "Poor white trash frauds." He lunged. The movement was explosive, a blur of tailored suit and desperation. Dane's hand clamped around Juliana's arm like a vice, fingers digging into the denim sleeve with enough force to bruise. She staggered but didn't cry out, her free hand tightening on the folder as if it were an anchor. Lila whirled, her puzzle cube clattering to the floor, but Dane was already yanking Juliana toward him, his breath hot and ragged against her face. "That's my legacy. My blood. You think you can waltz in here with your gutter tricks and steal it?" The atrium erupted. Security guards surged forward, but the crowd pressed in, a living barrier of bodies and raised devices. 14 phones, at least, captured every angle. Wide shots from journalists in the back, close-ups from onlookers inches away, vertical videos for social feeds that were already blowing up with hashtags like #VaultMiracle and #HargroveMeltdown. The air crackled with the synthetic shutter clicks of digital witnesses, immortalizing the billionaire's unraveling. Elena Hargrove, Dane's sister, the family's poised public face with her sleek chignon and pearl earrings, pushed through the throng like a force of nature. She'd been hovering on the periphery all week, a silent observer in navy blazers, but now her heels clicked with urgent authority. "Dane, stop this instant," she commanded, reaching for his arm. He rounded on her with blind rage, shoving her backward with both palms against her shoulders. Elena's back slammed into a nearby antique cabinet, one of the museum's displays, glass-fronted and filled with fragile porcelain relics from the vault's era. The impact rattled the shelves, a delicate vase teetered, then toppled, shattering into a porcelain snowfall at her feet. She gasped, more from shock than pain, her hand flying to her chest as pearls scattered like hail. The phones didn't miss a beat. One feed zoomed in on Elena's wide eyes. Another panned to the shards glinting under the atrium lights. Whispers turned to shouts. Did he just assault her? That's his own sister. The security detail finally broke through, but they hesitated, badges gleaming uncertainly. Touch the boss or contain the chaos. Amid the frenzy, Dr. Kara Voss, lead engineer from the 4th team, ex-NASA propulsion specialist with a steel-gray bob that never betrayed a single stray hair, stood atop a folding table like a commander on a bridge. Her tablet was propped against a drone controller, live streaming to a secure cloud server she'd spun up that morning on a hunch. This is Kara Voss, independent verification feed, she narrated coolly into her lapel mic, voice cutting through the din like a laser. Timestamp: 4:02 p.m. Subject: Dane Hargrove. Incident: physical altercation post-vault breach. Audio-visual sync confirmed. Uploading in real time to encrypted node. Link in bio for verified outlets. Her stream counter ticked upward. 50,000 viewers. 100,000. Viral velocity. Voss's eyes, sharp as the thermal imagers she'd deployed earlier, flicked between her screen and the scene. She'd seen egos implode in boardrooms and launch failures at Cape Canaveral, but this was spectacle on steroids. Note the aggression toward minors and family member, she continued, unflinching. Potential charges: assault, battery, endangerment. Dane, oblivious or uncaring, released Juliana with a final shove that sent her stumbling into Lila. The twins caught each other instinctively, hands clasping in a grip forged from years of shared secrets and unbreakable trust. Juliana's arm throbbed where his fingers had bitten in, a ring of red blooming beneath the fabric, but her chin lifted defiantly. Lila's eyes blazed not with fear, but with the cold fire of righteous documentation. She'd slipped her own phone from her pocket mid-lunge, hitting record the instant Dane's hand made contact. "You're done, Elena," Dane bellowed, wheeling on his sister as she steadied herself against the cabinet, porcelain dust coating her shoes. His face was a mottled red, veins throbbing at his temples. "Fired. Pack your office, security will escort you out. And these interlopers." He jabbed a finger at the twins, spittle flying. "Lawsuits. I'll bury you in court until you're begging on the streets where you belong. Trespass, theft, fraud. I'll have your parents in chains." Elena's composure cracked for the first time, her lips pressing into a thin line. But she didn't cower. Instead, she straightened, brushing a shard from her sleeve with deliberate calm. "Dane, you're embarrassing yourself. And the family." Her voice carried the weight of boardroom battles, but underneath lurked a tremor. Of hurt, perhaps, or the dawning realization that blood didn't guarantee loyalty. The twins stood unbroken in the eye of the storm, hands linked like a circuit completed. Juliana's pulse raced, but her voice emerged steady when she spoke, addressing the room at large. "We didn't steal anything. The vault opened because we listened. Your grandfather's puzzles weren't for brute force or billions. They were for harmony." Lila squeezed her hand, adding softly, "And now the world's listening too." Phones pivoted toward them, capturing the contrast. The disheveled billionaire raging like a cornered beast, and the two girls, rumpled but resolute, guardians of secrets that could topple empires. Voss's stream hit 1 million viewers. Notifications pinged from news outlets scrambling for embeds. "Facial recognition confirms identities," Voss intoned. "Victims: Juliana and Lila Thorne, ages 14. Assailant: Dane Hargrove, CEO Hargrove Holdings." Security finally acted. 2 burly guards flanking Dane with gentle but firm grips on his elbows. "Sir, we need to de-escalate," one murmured, but Dane shrugged them off, his threats dissolving into incoherent sputters as the reality sank in. The evidence was everywhere. 14 angles, plus Voss's professional-grade feed, all time-stamped, geotagged, uneditable. Elena stepped away from the cabinet, ignoring the crunch underfoot, and approached the twins with outstretched hands. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her tone shifting to genuine concern. Juliana shook her head, though she flexed her bruised arm subtly. Lila met Elena's eyes. "We're okay. But what about you?" A ghost of a smile touched Elena's lips, the first crack in the family's facade. "I've survived worse board meetings." She glanced at the plinth, the USB drives winking like black pearls. "Project Eclipse. Grandfather always said it would change everything. I just didn't expect it to start with family." Dane sagged between the guards, his fire guttering out as exhaustion and defeat washed over him. "This isn't over," he muttered, but the words lacked conviction, drowned by the chorus of recording devices. The atrium buzzed with commentary. Analysts predicting stock plunges, lawyers circling like sharks, social media exploding with memes of the shattered Scotch glass superimposed over Hargrove's snarling face. Voss hopped down from her perch, tablet still streaming. Feed secured. Backups in 3 locations. "Ladies," she nodded to the twins. "Impressive work. NASA could use minds like yours." Her steel-gray bob didn't budge as she turned to Dane. "And you, sir? Consider this your resignation from civility." The vault door creaked wider on its own, as if inviting inspection, the bearer bonds fluttering slightly in the draft from the climate controls. Juliana and Lila released their hands but stayed close, the folder a shared burden now. The rage had peaked and broken, leaving only the cold light of recording, evidence that would ripple far beyond these walls. As guards led Dane away, his protests fading down the corridor, Elena placed a tentative hand on each twin's shoulder. "Whatever comes next," she said quietly, "we face it with the truth. Together, if you'll allow it." The twins exchanged a glance, the unbreakable link humming between them. The miracle had evolved into reckoning, and the recordings ensured no one could look away. Outside, the atrium clock ticked onward, indifferent to the storm it had witnessed. But in the digital ether, the chapter was already written. In pixels, in clouds, in the unblinking eyes of the world. The atrium clock's hands crept past 6, but the museum's grand hall felt suspended in a perpetual 4 o'clock twilight, the skylight now dimmed by gathering clouds outside. Dane's muffled protests echoed faintly from a side corridor where security had escorted him, his voice reduced to a petulant drone swallowed by the building's vast acoustics. The vault door remained ajar, its contents under temporary guard by museum staff who'd cordoned off the area with velvet ropes and stern glances. Juliana and Lila stood with Elena in a loose triangle near the shattered cabinet, the confidential folder now secured in a clear evidence bag handed over by a flustered curator. The air hummed with the aftershock of violence, the sharp tang of scotch mingling with porcelain dust, the low buzz of whispered speculations. Cara Voss, ever the unflappable engineer, had retreated to a corner workstation amid the scattered equipment from her team's failed siege. Her steel-gray bob caught the overhead lights as she hunched over her tablet, fingers flying across the screen with the precision of a coder defusing a bomb. 2 hours post-breach, she muttered to herself, glancing at the timestamp. The raw footage from her live stream, hours of it, including the vault's opening, Dane's lunge, the shove, the threats, needed distillation. She spliced with ruthless efficiency. The twins' synchronized dial turns at 3x speed, Dane's poor white trash frauds scream in crystal clarity, Elena's impact against the cabinet slowed to emphasize the shatter, the 14 phone angles woven into a multi-view mosaic for undeniable proof. By 6:12 p.m. the edit was ready, an 11-minute bombshell titled Hargrove's Vault, Miracle, Meltdown and Mayhem. Voss uploaded it to her verified channel on a major video platform, cross-posting links to X, Instagram, and a mirrored secure site. "For transparency," she captioned simply. Then she leaned back, cracking her knuckles, and watched the counter ignite. The inferno started small, a spark in tech forums where Voss's NASA credentials lent instant credibility. Ex-NASA engineer drops truth nuke on billionaire tantrum, one post read. Retweets cascaded. By 6:30, #VaultTwins was trending in the US. By 7 o'clock, #PayTheTwins erupted globally, fueled by clips of the girl's unflinching poise amid the chaos. Users overlaid heart emojis on their linked hands. Memes of Dane's snarling face photoshopped onto raging toddlers. From puzzle pros to punch absorbers, pay them, one viral thread demanded. Juliana, Lila, and Elena had been ushered to a side room by museum security. A quiet antechamber with velvet settees and faded oil paintings of long-dead benefactors. Pro bono lawyers, alerted by a viral alert from a civil rights firm, arrived within the hour. A sharp-suited duo from a non-profit specializing in child prodigies and corporate accountability. "We're getting you out of here," the lead attorney, Marcus Hale, said firmly. His voice a soothing baritone. "Paparazzi are swarming the exits. Safe hotel, NDAs for staff, full protection." The twins nodded numbly, adrenaline ebbing into exhaustion, while Elena signed off on temporary custody arrangements with a steady hand. As their motorcade, two unmarked SUVs flanked by motorcycle escorts, slipped through a service gate at 7:45, the video hit 1 million views. By 8:30, as they checked into a discreet boutique hotel in the city's upscale district, suite with adjoining rooms, windows overlooking a private garden, it was at 3 million. The lawyers set up laptops in the sitting area, monitoring the blaze. "This is unprecedented velocity," Hale murmured, scrolling through analytics. "Algorithms pushing it to every feed. Outrage bait with heart." Back in the digital wilds, the floodgates opened. Former Hargrove Holdings employees, long silenced by NDAs and fear, scented blood in the water. DMs poured into Voss's inbox, then the twins' newly created and lawyer-vetted accounts. 52 testimonies by 10 p.m., each a thread of wage theft, nepotism and sabotage. A mid-level accountant detailed how Dane had skimmed bonuses to fund personal jets. An ex-engineer recounted projects tanked to eliminate rivals, prototypes destroyed in accidents. A receptionist shared screenshots of emails promoting unqualified family members over seasoned staff. "He called us disposable," one message read. "Time to dispose of him." Voss vetted and amplified the credible ones, pinning a thread. Whistleblower megadump. Verified via payroll stubs and emails. Hashtags evolved. Hashtag Hargrove exposed. Hashtag Twinsel. By midnight, as the twins finally drifted into fitful sleep, Lila clutching her tin cup like a talisman, Juliana sketching light angles on hotel notepads, the video crested 5 million views. Late-night hosts jumped in. Clips aired on emergency segments. One comedian sipping from a mock scotch glass quipped, "Dane Hargrove, billionaire, vault-cracker's nightmare, and now, glass shatterer extraordinaire." Laughter tracks boomed, roasts trending with montages of the meltdown set to dramatic music. Morning talk shows dissected it over coffee. At 7 a.m., a major network panel, legal expert, psychologist, tech analyst, played the 11-minute edit in full. "This isn't just assault," the lawyer intoned. "It's a window into systemic abuse. Those bearer bonds. Potential tax evasion. Project Eclipse. We need subpoenas." Cut to stock tickers. Hargrove Holdings opened down 15%, plummeted to 28% by noon, and closed the day at a staggering 42% plunge. Board members issued terse statements. Acquisition partners, 3 major firms eyeing mergers, withdrew publicly. "Integrity concerns," one press release cited. Shares hemorrhaged value like the scotch from Dane's shattered tumbler. In the hotel suite, sunlight filtered through blackout curtains as the group convened over room service breakfast. Elena, circles under her eyes but posture regal, scrolled through her tablet. "The board's calling an emergency meeting," she said quietly. "Dane's suspended pending investigation. They're offering me interim CEO." Her voice held a mix of disbelief and resolve. The twins, in fresh clothes provided by the lawyers, picked at croissants. "What about the vault stuff?" Lila asked, mouth full. "Eclipse." Hale leaned forward. "Feds are involved now, IRS CC. Those USBs are in evidence lockup. But the testimonies, that's your shield. Public supports a fortress." He gestured to the TV, muted but flashing hashtag pay the twins graphics. Polls showed 87% siding with the girls. Donation links for their defense fund had raised 6 figures overnight. Elena set down her coffee, reaching across the table to take each twin's hand. You didn't just open a vault. You ignited accountability. Her pearls were gone, replaced by a simple necklace, as if shedding the old skin. Juliana squeezed back. We listened to the whispers. The world finally did too. Outside, the city buzzed with the inferno's heat. Protesters gathering at Hargrove Tower with signs reading pay up, Dane and twins tantrums. News choppers circled, but the hotel's security held firm. Voss arrived mid-morning, laptop in tow. Her stream now at 20 million. Thought you'd want the latest, she said, sliding into a chair. More testimonies incoming. And offers. Book deals, documentaries, even a puzzle app with your faces. Lila laughed, the sound bright amid the tension. As long as it has hard levels. Juliana nodded, sketching a new napkin diagram. Viral spread as a web of light reflections. The reckoning was public, unrelenting. A firestorm forged from one man's rage and 2 girls' quiet brilliance. By evening, as the stock settled into freefall and Dane's lawyers spun futile denials from a secluded estate, the twins stood on the suite's balcony. The garden below was serene, a pocket of green in the urban chaos. 6 minutes changed everything, Juliana whispered. Lila leaned on the railing. And the world's still whispering back. The inferno raged on, exposure's flames consuming secrets long buried. In its light, new paths emerged. Justice, perhaps, or the next puzzle waiting to be solved. The garden below the hotel balcony lay in pre-dawn hush, dew-kissed petals glowing faintly under security lamps. Juliana and Lila had slipped back inside as the city's distant sirens began their nocturnal chorus, curling up on opposite ends of the suite's oversized sofa with laptops balanced on their knees. Elena paced the adjoining room, phone pressed to her ear, fielding frantic board members who spoke in hushed, urgent tones. Cara Voss had crashed in the spare bedroom, her tablet still pinging with incoming whistleblower files. Sleep came in fits, the weight of exposure pressing like an unseen dial yet to turn. At 4:57 a.m., the first explosion of activity shattered the quiet. An encrypted alert flashed across Hale's phone, forwarded from a DOJ contact. Asterisk warrants executed. Multi-agency. Hargrove Holdings HQ, private hangar Teterboro, Cayman trustee offices. Asterisk the lawyer burst into the sitting area. Ty Askew, eyes alight. It's happening. Dawn raids. They're taking everything. The twins bolted upright, screens forgotten. Elena joined them, wrapping a robe around her shoulders. Together they clustered around the television as cable news cut to helicopter footage. Black SUVs with flashing blues converging on Hargrove Tower's underground garage. Federal agents in windbreakers emblazoned FBI, IRSCI, and SEC poured out, battering rams at the ready. A second feed showed Teterboro Airport at dawn, floodlights illuminating Dane's private Gulfstream as agents swarmed the tarmac, seizure notices slapped on the fuselage like scarlet letters. A third angle, grainy but unmistakable, from a Cayman Islands bank lobby. Suited trustees handcuffed at their desks, offshore ledgers boxed in evidence crates. Project Eclipse, Voss murmured, materializing with bedhead and a mug of instant coffee. She'd pulled the threads overnight, cross-referencing the USB labels with patent filings. It's not a defense contract or merger playbook. It's theft, wholesale IP heist. On screen, a Chiron scrolled. Exclusive. Hargrove Vault reveals stolen AI patents from 3 startups. The details unfurled like a digital autopsy. Phase 1. Neural network architecture lifted from a Seattle-based machine vision firm. Founders bought out with pennies then buried in NDAs. Phase 2. Natural language models siphoned from a Boston collective. Code repurposed for Hargrove's flagship assistant bot. Phase 3. Predictive analytics core stolen from a Palo Alto garage team. 2 PhDs who'd vanished into consulting roles that paid in stock options and silence. The bearer bonds. Seed money to fund the acquisitions. The acquisition target folders. A hit list of competitors to crush post-launch. By 6:30 a.m., the board's emergency vote was leaked via a frantic X thread from a junior director. Dane Hargrove removed as CEO, effective immediately. Elena Hargrove appointed interim. Stock futures, already battered, opened in freefall. Another 18% shaved before the bell. The class action lawsuit, seeded by the 52 whistleblower testimonies, ballooned overnight. Lawyers from 3 firms consolidated claims. Wage theft, IP infringement, fraudulent inducement. Plaintiffs hit 52 exactly. Former employees, the 3 startups, even a venture fund burned on due diligence. Total damages sought. $1.2 billion, itemized in a 180-page filing that read like a corporate obituary. In the hotel suite, room service arrived unbidden. Silver domes lifted to reveal Belgian waffles, fresh berries, and a pint each of strawberry ice cream, courtesy of the night manager who'd recognized the twins from trending photos. Juliana spooned a bite, the cold sweetness grounding her as the television cycled raid footage on loop. Lila licked pink from her lips, eyes fixed on the screen. "They're boxing the servers," she observed, clinical. "That's the AI training cluster. Eclipse lives there." Elena muted the volume, her interim CEO badge already pinned to her blazer despite the hour. "The board wants a clean break," she said, voice steady but tired. "Asset freeze, forensic audit, full cooperation. Dane's accounts, domestic and offshore, are locked. His passports flagged." She hesitated, then added softly, "He's at the estate, alone." The arrest came at 7:42 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, live-streamed by a local affiliate chopper that had tailed the motorcade from the tower. Dane emerged from his Greenwich mansion in a rumpled bathrobe, hair uncombed, wrists cuffed in front of him. No suit, no tie. Just a billionaire reduced to pajamas and federal marshals. He blinked against the morning sun, mouth working soundlessly as agents guided him into an unmarked Suburban. The Chiron blazed. Dane Hargrove arrested. Fraud, theft, conspiracy. Juliana's spoon paused mid-air. Lila set her pint on the coffee table, untouched melt pooling. They watched in silence as the convoy rolled past manicured hedges, reporters shouting questions Dane couldn't, or wouldn't, answer. Elena's hand found each of theirs, a triangle of solidarity forged in the crucible of exposure. Hale's phone buzzed with updates. Plea offer on table. 12 years, $800 million restitution, full asset disclosure. The number was staggering, yet somehow inevitable. The startups would reclaim their IP, employees their back pay, the class action carved into structured settlements. Dane's empire, once a monolith of glass and steel, crumbled into footnotes and fines. By noon, the suite had transformed into a makeshift war room. Lawyers huddled over laptops, drafting press statements. Voss synced RAID-seized data with her cloud backups, confirming Eclipse's theft vectors down to commit hashes. Elena fielded calls from shell-shocked executives, her voice calm steel. Cooperate or resign. The twins, relegated to observers, sketched on hotel stationery. Juliana mapping light paths through the raid footage, Lila annotating audio spikes from Dane's arrest mic feed. Old habits. At 2:15 p.m. the plea was signed. Dane, in an orange jumpsuit via video link from Holding, nodded mechanically as the judge recited terms. 12 years in a low-security facility. $800 million wired to an escrow within 48 hours. Perpetual ban from corporate office. The gavel fell with a sound like a vault dial locking forever. The television cut to pundits. Empire collapses in 72 hours. Fastest in modern history. Stock closed at pennies, delisting imminent. Acquisition partners sued for breach. The bearer bonds, once negotiable, were now evidence in a RICO case. Evening settled over the garden again. The sky bruised purple. The suite quieted. Lawyers departed, Voss asleep on the couch, Elena on a call with the startup's founders offering olive branch licenses. Juliana and Lila returned to the balcony, Ice cream long melted but spoons still in hand. Sirens had faded. The city exhaled. He thought force opened doors, Juliana said, tracing the skyline with her spoon. But listening did. Lila nodded, eyes on the first star. And now the whispers are law. Below, a news ticker crawled. Hargrove plea accepted. Twins credited with catalyst. Their names glowed in a 14 and fearless, the reckoning complete. Inside, Elena hung up and joined them, 3 silhouettes against the dusk. The empire was ash, the vault silent, but the future, bright, uncharted, clicked open like a final perfect dial. The dusk over the city had softened into a velvet indigo, the balcony's garden lamps flickering on one by one like cautious fireflies. Elena's silhouette lingered in the doorway, phone finally dark, her interim CO title now permanent and unchallenged. The plea deal's ink was barely dry, yet the world had already pivoted. Hargrove Holdings rebranded overnight into Hargrove Heritage Trust, a non-profit shell to manage restitution and reparations. Juliana and Lila leaned against the railing, spoons idle, the melted strawberry ice cream a sticky testament to a day that felt both eternal and instantaneous. Somewhere below, a delivery drone hummed past with crates marked Twin Spark prototype, the first shipment of what would become their new normal. 1 year later, the Global Tech Summit unfolded in a glass-domed convention center on the edge of the Pacific, waves crashing against the breakwater in rhythmic applause. It was November, the air crisp with salt and possibility, and the main stage glowed under a canopy of LED constellations. Banners fluttered. Innovate for tomorrow. Powered by open source. In the front row sat 200 teenage girls in matching navy blazers embroidered with a subtle double helix spark, the inaugural cohort of Twin Spark STEM scholars. Their families filled the tiers behind them, phones raised not in frenzy but in pride. Backstage, Juliana and Lila, now 15, taller by a handspan, hair trimmed into practical bobs, adjusted their lapel mics. The bruises from Dane's grip had faded to memory, replaced by the faint calluses of circuit boards and laser cutters. Juliana smoothed her charcoal skirt, the same compact mirror tucked into her pocket like a talisman. Lila spun her tin cup on one finger, now polished chrome and engraved with the date of the vault breach. Nervous? Juliana asked, voice low. Only if the demo crashes, Lila replied, grinning. We triple-checked the sandbox. Elena appeared between them, no longer in pearls but a sleek jumpsuit bearing the Twin Spark logo. The $200 million enforcement contract, court-mandated from the vault's bearer bonds, had seeded the foundation. An additional $350 million settlement, carved from Dane's liquidated assets, funded the scholarships. Full rides for 200 underprivileged girls annually, covering tuition, housing, mentorship, and a stipend that ensured no one chose between textbooks and groceries. The first class hailed from favelas, townships, refugee camps, and forgotten rural pockets. Every corridor the narrator would later invoke. The lights dimmed. A spotlight pinned the twins' center stage. The MC, a former NASA astronaut turned broadcaster, boomed. Please welcome the architects of the Whispering Vault and the spark that ignited Twin Spark, Juliana and Lila. The auditorium thundered. The girls stepped forward, twin beams in the constellation canopy converging on them. Behind them, a massive screen displayed a 3D render of the original vault, rotating slowly. Juliana tapped her clicker. The render exploded into code. Thousands of lines of open-source firmware, annotated in neon highlights. Project Eclipse wasn't innovation, Juliana began, voice amplified yet intimate. It was theft disguised as progress. Today we release VaultGuard OS, our fork of the Vault security stack, stripped of backdoors, hardened with quantum-resistant encryption, and freely available under Apache 2.0. Lila took the handoff seamlessly. We found 3 critical flaws the original designers never patched. She gestured. The screen zoomed into a dial subroutine. First, acoustic side-channel leakage. A tin cup and a good ear bypass brute force. Laughter rippled. Recognition of the viral clip. Second, light refraction spoofing on the iris scanner. A compact mirror and geometry beat biometrics. She angled a handheld laser. A mock scanner on stage flashed green. Third, harmonic resonance in the gear train. Match the frequency, and the dials sing themselves open. The demo unfolded like a dance. Juliana triggered a physical replica vault, half-scale, 3D printed in titanium filament, center stage. Lila fed it randomized credentials via tablet. The vault locked with a resonant thunk. Then, in 6 minutes flat, timer projected overhead, they mirrored their museum feat. Mirror bounce, acoustic map, synchronized turns. The door side opened to reveal a single LED bulb flickering Morse code. Open to all. The crowd surged to its feet. Scholars in the front row clutched their new laptops, preloaded with EOS. Startup founders scribbled notes. Venture capitalists quietly deleted competing bids. A live stream counter ticked past 50 million concurrent viewers. Hashtag Twin Spark launch trending in 180 countries. Post-keynote, the foyer transformed into a carnival of code. Booths offered soldering stations, VR puzzle rooms, and scholarship kiosks where girls uploaded essays on invisible problems I will solve. Elena circulated with quiet gravitas, signing acceptance letters on a tablet that beamed them instantly to families continents away. One scholar, a Nigerian coder who'd reverse-engineered satellite dishes for village Wi-Fi, hugged Lila so fiercely the tin cup spun across the marble. Evening settled into a gala under the dome, fairy lights strung like binary stars. The twins slipped away to a service corridor, needing air. They found themselves before a new installation. A sleek safe, matte black, no visible dials or scanners. Plaque read. Asterisk for the next invisible genius. Crack me if you listen. Asterisk. Juliana ran her fingers over the seamless surface. No instructions, she murmured. Lila pressed her ear to the metal, tin cup at the ready. A faint whisper emanated. Not mechanical but human. A child's voice recorded and looped. Asterisk every corridor hides a Juliana and Lila. Your move. Will you open the door or keep it locked? Asterisk. They smiled, the question hanging like a dare. Behind them, footsteps. 200 scholars approaching in a wave. Laptops glowing, ready to accept the challenge. The safe's whisper cycled, inviting, infinite. The dome lights dimmed to a single spotlight on the safe. The twins stepped aside, yielding the stage to the next generation. Elena joined them, arms around their shoulders. The Foundation's first annual report, projected on the dome's curve, scrolled upward. 200 scholars, 41 countries, 18 patents already filed, $550 million in lifelong earning potential unlocked. Somewhere, in a low-security facility with manicured lawns, Dane Hargrove watched the broadcast on a communal television. The plea deal's restitution had left him comfortable but powerless. $800 million disbursed, 12 years to reflect. He stared at the safe's plaque, lips moving soundlessly. The screen cut to the twins' final bow. The scholars roared, drowning his whisper. Back in the corridor, Juliana pocketed her mirror. Lila spun the cup one last time. Together they walked into the gala's glow, the safe's question echoing in their wake. Not an ending, but a relay baton passed. Every corridor hides a Juliana and Lila. Your move. Will you open the door or keep it locked?